brrr, again. I'm like, okay, it's the same move. That's fine. And then they fight different way, and then brrr, again, and then she like bites off two of his fingers, and he's like, ah. And I'm like, you should probably not use that same move over and over again. And he's like, brrr, and I'm like. The next show we're going to be talking about is a completely different Switch. It is called Killing Bites. It is on Prime. Yes, okay. Amazon Prime. So basically this show is a fight to the death with half human, half animal creatures, people, whatever they are, beings.
Talk about this in the upcoming enemies?
We mentioned that there was a really ecchi show, and I thought it was this one, but it's not. You okay. Mentioned the other one.
Yeah, no, that was completely different.
Yeah,
I remember that one.
Yeah, so this one's.
I was looking at going Killing Bites. I'm like, for this.
So, I went into this show pretty much expecting boobs, butts, and blood, but not as much boobs and butts as I thought. So I'm like, hey, how about actually get into this show? It's actually like a fight to the death, like a fight of the week kind of show. The characters that you started following at the beginning, I absolutely hated them. They kidnapped this high school girl thinking it was like she was just off by herself, with no, like, just a girl out at night off by herself. And she ends up being one of the Killing Bites people. She like halfway transforms and like slaughters all of them. During that whole encounter, you meet one of the main guys, and he's like a guy who just has terrible friends and someone who's kind of just weak and not like strong-willed. So he like basically a bunch of crappy dudes peer pressure this guy into driving his dad's van or something off, like off in like out in the woods or something like that. They abduct this girl, they all get slaughtered, and then he ends up being caught in this like battle between monsters that's being bet on by these really high profile, like, yeah, basically. Overall, thinking about like just the overall way I think this story is gonna go, it's kind of interesting. It's basically it's the style of show that's like Fate. It's the style of show that's like what's that? It's basically regular person and super being fighting against other regular people and super being. And I don't think it's going to turn into a harem like some of the other shows like this are. I don't think it's going to be as interesting or as cool as Fate, but I think it's going to be interesting enough.
So it's not a bad show, but it's not a great show either.
Yeah, like the fighting could be better. The stories, it's like just stuff to get to the next fight. So I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I like the character designs, so I'm kind of like interested to see, because I think this girl's like some kind of like, I want to say she's like a badger or something, like the name of a creature that I have never heard of. It's like a specific like type of creature, and I'm like, is it a badger? I don't know. That's the closest thing I can think of. It has a name, and they said it a bunch of times, but I'm like, I've never heard of that animal before. It looks like a badger, so I'm gonna just call it a badger. There was a lion guy that she fought, and she beat him. There's like a bunny girl, which I'm like, how does she kick really hard? Like, I don't get it. There's a leopard girl, so I'm like, okay, feline claws, that's cool. And there's a few other ones that I'm like, I'm interested to see how they fight. Once I find out how they fight, then I just gotta wait for the episode to end, because the fights are somewhat repetitive. Like the lion dude, he has this like a million punch barrage. So he's like, one thing that was cool is like it's not 100% predictable. Like they got they went against my expectations a few times. So like she's talking and she's like, she's like doing her monologue, and he's like, bah! Just like cuts her monologue off and just like brrr, just beating her into the ground. And I'm like, that was funny. I was like, you cut off the monologue. Good job. And then they start fighting, and it kind of goes back and forth. And then he's like, again. I'm like, okay, it's the same move. That's fine. And then they fight a different way, and then again. And then she like bites off 2 of his fingers, and he's like, ah. And I'm like, you should probably not use that same move over and over again. And he's like, and I'm like, so I'm like, the fights are interesting at first, but then they show all of their cards like right off the bat, or at least this first fight did. And meanwhile, the guy who got wrapped up in all of this, he's like trying to escape, but because their fight is so like wild, he's like, oh, let me climb up this thing. And they're all like, like, okay, let me go over here. Goes over there, and they're all like, oh, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna just sit here until it's over. So, there are interesting parts. I like the character designs. The story is kind of just getting you from one fight to another, and the first fight was kind of repetitive. So I'm like, it's an okay show. I'm very curious to see what the other characters are gonna be like, because the character designs are so cool. And then it does that weird thing that, like, at first I was classifying these shows as like kid shows where they have that like narrator, like it's like, oh, I'm gonna just call her the Badger. She's the Badger, and they pull completely away from the show and be like, a Badger is this type of character. They're usually strong against this, and some of them fight lions. And then they cut back to the fight where this type of Badger is fighting a lion, and I'm like, that was some interesting information. How come? Yeah, I'm like, couldn't you have like gave me some backstory? And they're like she was in an accident, like the main girl that's the Badger, half Badger, she was like in some kind of tragic accident and she's about to die, so they're like, we can splice her with some kind of animal so she could be your fighter. And he's like, okay, well, what do we have? And he's like, well, the Badger, it can do like this, or like work it into the story somehow. Don't like cut away and narrate it, because then I'm like, that completely pulled me out of the show. So I know they're going to do that in the next one. They're like, the rabbit, it can kick really. I'm like, come on. So, so I was like, yeah, this show is 100% okay. I'm going to keep watching it just to see what the other fights are like. But it's definitely not on my hype list.
Fair enough.
All right.
So they're just really, really good friends.
Yes, they are the best of friends. And she loves teasing him. Like, she's crying, like, she finds out that, oh, he's not married. So then her gaze kind of lightens a little bit, and it's kind of like a puppy dog stare. So, like, he comes across her again, she's like, and he's like,